All right. Hi, Scott. Hi, Maroin. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. It's January 19th, and I just wanted to go over a few quick things before we got started. The first is just so you know, right now, this conversation is being recorded, and so I just wanted to give you that heads up right now. Are you guys fine with me recording this conversation and posting it to YouTube after it's complete?
Sure.
Maroon, is that fine?
Yeah.
All right, great. And then the second item to bring up is the second item just to bring up is that we want our conversations here at Vonvo to stay both civil and valuable. So if any other participants join, do you agree to not make any personal attacks against anyone and keep the conversation civil?
Of course.
All right, great. Maroon, that fine. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so then let's get right into our discussion about the civil war going on in Syria. Quickly, just for our viewers, Scott, do you just want to give anyone watching right now a quick background of yourself, please? And then Maroon, you
Sure.
can go next.
Yeah, I studied political science in undergraduate school, going back to study security studies of East Asia, but my background's largely Middle East, and very interested in how Syria is, Japan of the Levant, and how it's become ground for a proxy war between Western-backed powers in the Gulf, and essentially a sectarian conflict with Iran.
Great. And Maroon, could you just give our viewers a background of yourself?
Well, hello everybody. My name is Maroin. I'm 19 years old. I was born in France, so I'm French, but my parents are both Syrians. So I'm for the moment studying engineering, electronic engineering, first year.
Great, great. And so, basically, what I wanted to do was address a few different items relating to, the civil war going on right now in Syria. Quickly, could you both just clarify, your stance when it comes to what's going on in Syria? Are you guys pro-Assad regime or anti-Assad regime? And give us a little background of your feelings towards the regime. Scott, you go first.
Sure. I'll take a dispassionate approach, but as an American and just in general, for to maintain the balanced power in the Middle East as is, I believe that total victory for either the rebels or the Assad regime be a disaster. So I find myself in the middle ground, hoping to essentially work towards a stable, peaceful transfer of power to a transitional government that would probably have the unsatisfying but necessary exile of Assad, his closest cadres, and essentially the individuals who have blood on their hands, while leaving enough of the regime, and by enough of the regime I mean those who haven't been involved in directly killing civilians, left, keep them in there so there's some infrastructure, and so we don't have to completely rebuild the state and wind up with another Somalia.
Right, and Maroon, am I pronouncing that right? Just because I don't want to keep pronouncing it wrong. If not,
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm considering myself as against Bashar because it's simple. My parents are both Syrians, and all my family have been hit by the revolution since March 2011, and also because of the fact that I live in France and I vote and I live in democracy, so I know basically the values the Syrian people want. So for me, yeah, like said Scott, transitional government and all the guys who has blood on their hands must be judged. But I'm not part of the people who consider this revolution as an Islamic revolution, like the people who wants only to kill the Alawites and kill all the enemies of the Sunni.
Right.
Yeah, and I want to.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, can I address that, Max?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This has become a sectarian conflict because the relevant players, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, United States, to a lesser degree Israel, have formed essentially an axis against Iran. Hezbollah because they back the Assad regime, and obviously Assad, but as well as, and to a lesser extent, Syria. And really, this has become just an almost Cold War-esque proxy war, because the actual Syria itself is being used as a stomping ground for on the one hand, Western and Gulf-backed rebels who happen to be largely Sunni and Christian and Druze and Circassian and so on and so forth, and they also happen to be against an Alawite, an offshoot heterodox Shiite group. But I remember that it's worth noting that this is not an ethnic conflict. Iranians are Persians, and they are the large patron of their only and most consistent Arab ally, Syria. So really the fact that this has become a Sunni Shiite conflict is really only a matter of it works within the strategic and geopolitical context. It's not, in fact, a religiously based war. This is pure power politics.
Right. So here's what I wanted to ask What I wanted to ask you, Maroin.
One disagrees with you.
Maroin, you disagree? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Maroin.
Yeah, I agree with what said Scott. But
I'm sorry,
the thing is, Syria became like a prison for the people. It's okay? Can speak?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Syria became like a prison, like a big jail. So people they feel themselves alone, and usually I think when you're in jail and you have nobody with you, you turn to the religion. So when you turn to the religion, you begin to listen to people and to hear on the news, and it's sharing interest between all the Syrian people. So after this, many people turn. Before the revolution, all the Syrians were Sunni, but they were not as much as they are religious now. In my family, I have many different degree of cousins who believe in the religion, and then I also have people from my family who belong to the Muslim Brotherhood, even if I don't share the same interest and the same feelings with them.
So
I saw that question.
Yeah, so the question that I wanted to ask Maroin is, you said before...
Yeah, Zakaria.
Yeah. Oh, let me see. Did someone enter a question? Sky, a question?
No, yeah, go ahead. Ask who you're going to ask, Max.
Yeah. What I was going to ask is, Maroin, you said before that you think you know exactly what the Syrian people want and believe in, a true democracy. What I wanted to ask you is, you hear about these rebels that are fighting inside of Syria right now against the Assad regime. Do you think that they are properly representing the Syrian people? And then, Scott, you could take the question after Maroin responds.
It's always complicated when you have conflict to have these type of information. But since a year and a half, and since the beginning, when rebels come and took the weapons, I can say that we have maybe 17–18% of the people who are Syrian, and these Syrian, what they said is that when we release a city, after the city in the north, which happened, all the weapons are deleted. There are no more weapons in these cities, so people don't want to continue the war and to continue to follow the Holy Quran by saying that they want to establish an Islamic Khalifa and to conquest Lebanon, Iraq, and to put the, like I said, Bilad of Sham, which includes Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Israel, Jordan, part of Iraq. And I don't think, because when you look to the videos, you always notice that the rebels most of the party don't talk about their religious fact for Bashar. They only said that we have to fight against him because he is doing wrong. So they don't say that, oh, we have to fight him because he is wrong in the religion.
Right. So,
gotcha.
Scott, do you think? Yeah. I was just going to ask, like, what do you think these rebels stand for, Scott?
Well, that's the problem. I mean, they're very, 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 very loosely affiliated with one another, extremely decentralized. There's a lot of fighting. The biggest, Milad Talas, I think I'm mispronouncing his first name, but the most important defector of the Assad regime, who is a part and parcel of the Ba'ath, but who is a Sunni, he became the face. He became and stopped being the face of the Free Syrian Army, which is just and the opposition council, because it appears that there's a lot of individuals, many of whom are located in France, who have the most sway with Western governments and Gulf nations who are involved, but who are not representative of the individuals on the ground, and they're not getting. And if Assad were to fall right now, would not be truly representative leaders of Syria, because these are individuals who did not fight, who essentially played the political games during the Civil War. And so this comes to the nub of the issue here as to why there hasn't been any sort of Western intervention. No country's intelligence apparatus has enough information about the rebels to even consider supporting them with what they call heavy arms, like RPGs, things like that, surface-to-air missiles, stuff that can take down planes. Yeah. And this is a reflection of the fact that some of the best and most effective rebel groups are, whether they're Syrians or Syrians who fought in jihadi groups against the coalition troops in Iraq, which many did, and so on and so forth. But to the point, some of the most effective fighting militias are filled with radical Islamists who, if they don't dislike democracy, are at the very least very skeptical of Western values and so on and so forth. And this, I can't presume that all Syrians feel the same way as about democracy or against it as, you know, a particular militant group. But the problem is these groups are so separate, and because of the success of the militant groups, in particular Jundhat al-Nusra, who I apologize if I mispronounced the name, who's an Al-Qaeda affiliated group that's now on the U.S. terrorism list, among others. It's an issue because do they represent, and this is a question for Maroin, do these Muslim Brotherhood, and it's also worth noting, the Muslim Brotherhood in Syria is different than the Muslim Brotherhood than its partners in Morocco, Tunisia, for example. They're much more radicalized because Hafez al-Assad kept them completely in the dark. They had no role, even in Egypt, whereas the Muslim Brotherhood had they didn't actually have any say in anything, but they were part of the government. The Brotherhood in Syria was kept completely in the dark. So they're necessarily radicalized. They necessarily care less about appeasing outside powers who could help them. And as a result, I am genuinely curious if Islamist groups came to power, which it seems most likely because they happen to be the most powerful militias, like I said, if Syrian people would feel them representative and worthy of ruling their country, albeit democratically elected after a transition government, if they were to espouse a similar ideology as, let's say, the Freedom and Justice Party, i.e. the Muslim Brotherhood Party in Egypt, for example. And I'm curious what Maroin has to say.
Go ahead, Maroin.
Well, about the Muslim Brotherhood, like you said, it's very important because when Hafez killed many of them in the 80s, where did the rest of these people who hasn't been murdered? Where are they? They are in jails. There is many Muslim Brotherhood in jail at the moment, and it's maybe since it was on July 2011. I had a cousin. He has been captured by the government, and he has been put to jail in Homs. And we hadn't news from him until August of last year, 2012. He was able to have a mobile phone from his jail, and when I talked to him, he told me, he didn't tell me directly, but I understood that the environment where he is changed his mind so much. I mean, before this guy was studying business in Syria, so he was gonna have some work in a Gulf country or like this. And when he came to this jail with all these guys from the Muslim Brotherhood, they turned him into the religion. And the first thing he asked me when I talked to him on the phone, he told me if I was doing the Ramadan, because it was during the Ramadan in August 2012. So it's important that the people there, they are very easy to play with their minds. I mean, it's true that they don't really represent the Syrians, but many Syrians are becoming like them. And this is because they are feeling alone. They don't have any help. I mean, help like
right. So
talking like real help, not.
Sure, Max. Can I ask him a quick direct question?
Yeah.
not even, let's say, not even Muslim Brotherhood, but if an Islamist government were to come to, if Assad were to fall today and an Islamist government came to power, democratically elected by let's say a plurality, not a majority, under 50% of the Syrian people, do you think a significant swath of Syrians would be happy with that outcome, or do you truly believe they aspire towards West democracy?
It's really, really hard.
I know, and I'm sorry about that.
I really, really dream about having a Syria. I really, really wish that Syria will become a real democracy, but the problem is, if it's normal for a country, if you have the majority of the people who are Muslim, to have a Muslim government, isn't it?
Sure.
So, if there is a Muslim government, which type of Muslim government we must put? And I hope that the Syrians are enough smart to, when they will have time to choose between the different types of Islamic government, if they want a really close Islamic government and by abiding the law and by leaving all the Christian cafes where we can find alcohol or things, because the thing is that in Syria the positive thing of Bashar is that he let the country being like you know the word, it's like multi-religious,
diverse,
and
like multicultural.
This advantage, yeah. We accept Christians. We accept there are some Jews in Syria, and since 40 years, no problem with them. Really, no problem. And this advantage, I think that the Syrian, most of them, want to keep this advantage of multicultural diversity and accepting the other religion.
But
and
so that
I hope I can't tell you.
So Scott, if Maroin is saying, like, Assad, kept this a multicultural country for a while, which I don't know exactly how true or not that is. If you want to respond to it, you can. But what exactly, back over 12 months ago now, because it's been going on for such a long while, what exactly was it that got, the people to really just get up and rebel?
Well, okay. Syria is the bastion of pan-Arab nationalism. And that's, Nasserite, secular, communist in name but not in practice type ideology. So I know Bashar al-Assad took the helm from his father in 2000 of a secular regime that did, at least in name, pay lip service to multiculturalism, and did indeed, like, for example, they didn't lead pogroms against their very, very small but existent Jewish populations in major cities like Aleppo and Damascus. So, I don't dispute anything that Maroin just said. But the fact is this insurrection in Syria was a long time coming. When the Ba'ath took over in 47, it rose in 47, it took over in 63. Hafez al-Assad led a coup in 64, purged all the Sunni and Alawites, and took the reins and created this very, very, very strong military security apparatus, intelligence apparatus there. And so, between what I was speaking about before, how Assad, remember, this country is completely, when the French mandate ended, they cut up this country into sectarian areas. So you got the Alawites to the northwest, and you've got the Sunni, and everybody's dispersed. So basically, because when the Ba'ath Party came to power, they consolidated Alawite rule. Remember, Alawites are 12% of the population, roughly. They don't do a census there. 12% of the population, but they account for between 70 and 80% of the career soldiers. So this is to say that the other ethnic groups have been divided and conquered in essence. They've been used against each other to displace attention from the, let's say, maladroit ruling of Assad. So the seeds of this revolution, if you want to call it that, which it very much is, but it's more of at this point, it's in its early phases, unfortunately, so it's more of a direction. The seeds were planted long ago, particularly in '82 during the Hama massacre, when his father, Hafez, essentially leveled a city in Hama filled with Muslim Brotherhood members whom they'd heard were about to lead, essentially attempt a coup. And they killed somewhere between 20 and 40,000 Syrians, recklessly just carpet bombed the hell out of the city, reckless abandon. So we're talking about a lot of people who are, if they're not Alawite, Christian, Druze, essentially, if you are a Sunni, you have had reasons to have qualms with the Assad regime since the 70s. So we're talking about a lot of anger bubbling under the surface. And when Tunisia fell and the chips started to fall, and the dominoes started to fall across North Africa, it was only a matter of time for it to hit Syria. But that being said, I believe Syria's revolution is very much unique in the sense that it is of its own. The fact that it happened to come around the same time. As
Bassem, can you just make your microphone lower, Bassem?
Basically, I believe the Syrian
Scott, just wait 1 second while we get Bassem to make your stuff lower. Actually, all right, go ahead, Scott. Do you hear? I just muted you, so I just muted Bassem, so you should be able to speak, and I don't hear the echo now.
Yeah. I don't hear the echo now. Okay. All I'm saying is the Syria revolution is its own. It's the fact that it happened to occur around the same time as the others is something more of a coincidence than anything. That yes, the troubles have been bubbling under the surface for decades.
I don't think so.
But
I think that when the Tunisian guy burned himself, it was like a signal for us in our minds, in our Syrian minds. Everybody was saying, "Oh, it began in Tunisia, and after keep on Libya and Egypt." These were so much examples for us. But when you see now all the problems, with all the demonstrations, all the conflicts between the people, you think that maybe it's not the right way to end this Arab Spring for them. But I'd like to speak about what you said, Scott, about the sectarian areas. Because, for example, the village where I come from in Syria is situated on the northwest of Syria. It's on the Lebanese and Syrian border, and my village is like very poor. We don't have coffees, we don't have restaurants. It's very basic, and this village, which is a majority of Sunni people, is surrounded by Alawite village and Christian. And you can see that the demographic development and all the buildings, all the hotels, all the coffees, restaurants are not built on my village. They are only built in the Christian village because they know that they can take disadvantage of alcohol, forbidden for Muslim and only for the Christian. And now we are paying the fact that my village is surrounded by these types because the Christian there are some who stay friend with us and they don't fight us, but all the Alawite villages are shelling us every day. It's like very, very hard there, and you can see it on the degree of the cities where you have a neighborhood where you have Sunni, another neighborhood next to him where you have Alawite, another neighborhood where you have Christian, and this multicultural diversity is now like it's destroying us.
Right.
So it's really destroying us because it's explained all the sharp text.
Bassem,
sorry, go ahead.
Bassem, do you want to come in here and make a point?
At this point, I think you know, the talk is going smooth because it's actually revealing many of the complexity of the whole situation. I mainly agree a lot with what Scott had been saying all along, and the last point that Maroin was talking about is a very delicate and somehow worrying point, because we can see that the multicultural diversity of the Syrian society has become, it is basically when you have a multicultural diversity, and now suddenly it's becoming a bad thing inside the revolution. Now, there are many reasons, I think, that that Syria got to where it is right now, and I do believe that the Bashar Assad regime and his father's regime are responsible for these results, regardless of how much they aspired to have a secular country. They needed always to keep control of that country. And that control was being made by giving the minorities a lot of privileges over the majority, which created a kind of resentment towards the minorities from these majorities. And that's why we saw, as we said last time, one of the first mottos that started going out when this whole rebellion started was the Sunnis, the Alawites to the grave, and the Christians to Beirut. That's basically because of this 40 years old resentment over this regime that many people felt it took from them a lot of things and gave it to the minorities.
Can I respond?
Yeah, that's very.
Yeah, just to
yeah, go ahead, Bassem.
Just to end it with the I think that whatever the intentions was initially, I do believe that initially when the whole thing started, the intention wasn't exactly that. But you have to remember that the regime is not only the person on the head, which is Hafiz or Bashar, and the corruption is there. I've witnessed the corruption from my many visits to Syria, economical corruption, all of that, and I think the regime, after a certain period of time, probably after 5 or 6 years of its existence, all of its slogans, all of its ideologies became simple, simple ink on paper. They no longer have value to the people, and that's basically what we're seeing now. Alongside all what Maroin said about how the Brotherhood the Islamic Brotherhood were oppressed to the point where, yes, we all know that if you oppress someone so much and his back to the wall, you're gonna have a very fanatic counter reaction.
Right. So, Scott, go ahead and go ahead and address that, Scott. And then the two things I need to give you note of is that after you address that, Zachariah has a comment in the text chat that he posted a question. So it's a question to you, Scott, so you can address it after. And I just need to let each of you know that in about 10 minutes I'm going to have to leave the room because I have to go and start a new conversation. But you guys can feel free to continue the discussion, okay?
Yeah, okay, I'll make it quick.
Go ahead.
I agree. Basically, I agree with Bassem, but the timeline-wise, when the French were beginning to leave, they purposely brought the Alawites, who were traditionally farmers and essentially peasants. They gave them a great deal of power to offset the power then of the Sunnis. And when the French left and the Ba'ath Party was established in 47, right after the mandate ended in 46, they took full advantage of this, and that's what the Alawites did under Bashar's father, and that's where what Bassem was talking about occurred. Yes, the Alawites took advantage of the situation the French left to them, and with that power, they were able to divide and conquer the country and consolidate their own power. And that's all. But to the question, I do. Before you answer that question, I think this is a very important issue that very few people are not discussing because it's way back in time. But I think most of the conflicts in the region, in the Middle Eastern area, is based on this problematic, if you want to call it. The thing is that the same thing happened in Lebanon, because what the French did in Lebanon is that they actually created a country empowered by a Christian Catholic sect called the Maronites, who took control over the country, and that was as well why the civil war exploded in 1995 in Lebanon, because of many people feeling that they were under control of a single minority. Now, the difference between Syria and Lebanon is that Lebanon is made of many minorities. We don't have a majority, and that's probably why our civil war was even probably more complicated than what's going on in Syria. But nobody addresses the issue that I think the whole problem was because since the First World War, the Sunnis aspired, or the Arabs aspired to have a united Arab country, which was essentially what they had during the Islamic Khilafah. And this is why you see this subject being recurring every single time whenever fanatic Salafists or Islamic Brotherhood are involved. It's because of that since that time, since the end of the First World War I, we're denied that dream, and it's and all the rest of the conflicts are simply this whole thing collapsing, this whole thing that the French and the whole Axis powers left when the Allied left when they left the region. They left it totally unstable, and till this day, it's still the result of all of these unclever, if you want, foreign politics. Yeah, I just want to say, I should have noted this is exactly what the colonial powers did, what they did in Syria everywhere, and Lebanon is in fact the best example of just how poor of a job and how bad of an idea it was to essentially segregate countries along sectarian lines.
Yeah. Maroin.
Yeah, you want me to address the question? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to address the question, you could. Yeah. Maroin, did you have anything to say here?
For me, because we are talking about things from the past, but the people of the present, we always have to understand them by their own knowledge of the present. We have to understand the people. We have to put ourselves in their mind to understand why are they like this, why are they